And the sweet part of inline 4 is that I can show that to you. So I'm in the first gear. I'll show you how tractable this engine is. Okay, I'm not going to use throttle in this experiment until I reach the 6th gear. In moderate traffic, yes, you can use this motorcycle, and when you get an open highway like this, what's up YouTube, welcome back to another review on this channel. Today we have the Honda CB650R, the generation 1. So you might be knowing that Honda just announced that they're gonna bring the CB650R, the generation 2, which has a little bit of cosmetic update and one mechanical update. So before we get that motorcycle, let me just finish off the review of this motorcycle. It's a long time due on this motorcycle, and I got only time to ride this motorcycle just now, and I have to say that this is just a beautiful looking muscle motorcycle. I don't really say that this is a competition to muscle motorcycles like the Ducati Monster and all, but yes, it indeed has good road presence. It has got a good charm. It has got that charismatic character and a very nice looking motorcycle. You can see that. Let me just turn on the DRL. Just look at that. It's a beautiful looking motorcycle, and also it has an aftermarket voice, so that's why it looks a little more beefy. So yes, to start from the front, we have that very good looking headlight where we have that ring light. Actually, that ring light is giving a distinctive look to the motorcycle. I have seen this ring light in the CB1000R as well, but the CB300R doesn't get it. If you honestly ask me how's the throw of the headlight, I'll say it's just kind of okay. You can use it for city. If you're going for highway touring, then you have to have auxiliary lights. Otherwise, in terms of looks, it is just kicking that neo retro style. And we can see the beefy front forks, the UST forks from Showa. It's not adjustable, but it's an SFF and it works pretty good. It's decently set for road use, and a double disc in the front. And we have a short mudguard over here, and coming on to here we can see the CB650R logo, and there are only two portions in this motorcycle which has colors. So this comes with two colors. One is this cherry red, and we have black color. So basically black color means it's going to be all black, otherwise you get red in those two portions. And there we can see the 649cc inline 4 engine, which is sweetly put over there, which can be used for your medium purposes. I'd say medium purpose because it's not a too much powerful engine like a Z900 or a Ducati Monster, but I have to say that this is more powerful than the Bentley 600i. And there you can see the 4 header pipes just looking like a wow, and the exhaust is actually underbelly, and it's a short unit and it has ground clearance issues. I have to say that because on taller bumps I was facing that issue, and with pillion you will be facing that issue with a medium level hump as well. A good and elegant looking seat. The seat is comfortable, and coming onto the tail section, the new motorcycle will get a different tail. On this one also I really like the tail section. This is kind of decent. It's not too boasting and all. It doesn't have any inspiration to the CBR and all, but this tail section is just specific to the CB650R and CBR650R generation 1. Altogether, actually the bike looks bigger than you see in the photos. Some people may claim that this might look like a CB300, but definitely the CB650R is much bigger than the CB300, and as well the CB1000R is much bigger than all these two. So to just walk you through the modifications on this motorcycle, first of all we have the puke visor. That visor is actually doing a good job because it's a naked motorcycle, so we might start experiencing the wind blast from a 90 or 100 km/h mark. But on this one I feel I'm comfortable till 120 or 130. It's doing a pretty good job even at high speeds, say 160 or 180 or even 200. The windscreen is actually very stable, and this has a radiator guard. So whenever you are buying a new motorcycle, make sure that you have a radiator guard if your motorcycle has a radiator, because that's something which you have to be very careful being a new motorcyclist. And another one is the RNG frame slider on this one. Yeah, of course it's a naked motorcycle, and there are chances that you might slip the motorcycle and fall in the parking lot and all. So yeah, the frame sliders will help you. So minimal modification, only needed things. Otherwise this motorcycle is actually good to go from the stock. So let's see the other things from this side. It's a little beefy looking motorcycle. From this side we can see the Showa logo here, and it says SFF. SFF means separate function forks, and the switch gears on this motorcycle are actually similar to the one which I've seen on my motorcycle, which is the CBR650R. So on this side we have the traction control over here, which is a bit confusing for new riders, new Honda riders. And here we have the high beam, low beam, and the pass switch, the caution lamp, horn, and the indicator. And on this side we have the kill switch and the ignition. That's all. It seems a shorter mirror, but it's doing a very good job. I really like it. And on the dial we have good amount of information. We have the tachometer which shows red line at 12.5k rpm. It can go till 14k rpm. And we have the gear position indicator, the fuel level indicator, the time, the heat level indicator, and speedometer obviously. And if we press the set button, we can see the total kilometer, trip A, trip B, tachometer. We get a digital tacho there. Yeah, that's it. And we press the select button, we'll see the average fuel consumption, the fuel taken for this trip, the average speed, the time taken for the trip. Yeah, that's all. And it's not at all a tall motorcycle. You can see that I have planted food on both sides. With my height, this is much comfortable. So let's hear the inline 4 symphony. By the way, this is a 649cc, a smaller capacity inline 4. Such a sweet sounding motorcycle. In stock actually it doesn't make too much of sound, and when you're on the go it sounds nothing actually. You have to ring it loud to hear some sound from the exhaust, otherwise during the cruising speed and all it's going to be very silent. So let's hit the road and talk about the rest of the things. Alright, we are back on highway. So, and we have an open road, so let's pull it hard. I clearly haven't seen what all speed this motorcycle have reached, but I can say you that this motorcycle will reach a 200 km mark in the 4th gear itself. So this is a typical middleweight inline 4 motor, 649cc, producing around roughly 80 bhp and around 60 to 70 Nm torque. I'm saying this roughly because I don't read the spec sheet. More than that, I prefer to ride the motorcycle and give you a feel. So I have little more information to talk about this engine because I personally own a Honda CBR 650R, the same engine, and the feedback from the engine is exactly same, except the fact that this is a naked motorcycle, you have more wind blast, but the advantage is it's a naked motorcycle, you have less weight and you can flick it around. So the feedback from the engine is on the bottom end, the torque is not that great, but I'll say that it's not as sedative as the Bentley 600i, but it's not as powerful as the Z900 as well. So that's where it stands. And when it comes to the top, this has got really good power. That's around close to 200 km per hour in the 4th gear itself is good. By the way, this motorcycle comes with a stock air filter. I mean, every motorcycle comes with stock air filters, but if you plan to buy this motorcycle, then I would highly suggest to change the air filter of this motorcycle to something aftermarket so that this actually breathes good. So for Indian made, I think the air filter is more onto a tighter side and this is not pushing a good amount of air. So when I bought my bike, actually I changed the air filter and I could see that the motorcycle has that ability to surge up in the mid RPM itself. Otherwise the curve is, it takes a little more time and then it starts exponentially. But if you are changing the air filter to an aftermarket air filter, then yes, that curve actually goes faster. The downside is you have to actually service the air filter. I mean, you have to clean the air filter once in 3000 km in our riding condition. And the sweet part of inline 4 is that I can show that to you, that too a 600cc sweeter inline 4. So I'm in the 1st gear. I'll show you how tractable this engine is. Okay, I'm not going to use throttle in this experiment until I reach the 6th gear. It's around 25 km per hour, running in the 6th gear in idle RPM. Now I'm gonna give throttle. Now Now do you see the practicality of this engine? You can literally run this motorcycle in any gear you want inside the city. Yeah, obviously if you run the motorcycle in the 6th gear, that too in 25 km/h mark, you don't have any torque. The motorcycle will be in a very sedated manner, more like a comma of the motorcycle. But you can ride this motorcycle inside city in the 2nd and the 3rd gear. The engine is stress free. The engine doesn't ask you for more fuel. It just keep gliding. So that is one good thing, having a middleweight 650cc motorcycle, this kind of an engine getting used for your city purpose. And as well, this has heating issues, but not as bad as some single cylinders. I would say that the heat dissipation on this motorcycle is much better. Be it the CB or the CBR, the heat dissipation is much better. And to talk about the other things of the motorcycle, now let's talk about the brakes. So this comes with dual disc in the front, and the braking is actually spot on. For this kind of a motorcycle, I'll say that the braking setup is very good. And if you're someone who wanted to have an extra bite for the brake, switch to EBC brake pads. It is a bit noisy and it will create scratches on the disc, but what it gives you is an immense amount of braking. I know that you're gonna tell that, hey, why the hell on earth you actually recommend a brake pad which actually scratches off the disc? I would say that I am actually comfortable in changing the disc once in 50,000 kilometers or 60,000 kilometers. I don't mind if I'm having good braking. So that's one update on the brake, but still the stock braking setup itself is good. And as I mentioned, the front suspension is actually Showa SFF. You don't have any adjustability from this, but the stock setup is good enough to take you on bad roads or on highways. But obviously it's not a track focused bike. What I feel is that the front suspension actually have to be a little more tighter if you are taking into the track, and also the stock settings on the rear one is like more to a comfortable side. It's much easy, and the good part about this motorcycle is it's a comfortable riding motorcycle. If you see, the riding ergonomics is almost upright. I wouldn't say that it's a completely upright motorcycle like a Himalayan or a KTM Adventure 390, but I have to put a little bit of sportiness. This is my normal riding stance. I have to put a little bit of sportiness to my upper body, and that actually gives a lot of stability to the riding, because when I put that kind of a lean angle to my upper body, I'm actually gripping my thigh here, you see that, and this bulky tank sits right between my legs. At times it comes a moment that if I have to do hard braking, I actually slams my balls over this tank, but it's okay, I have very good grip. When I'm not gripping, yes, I slide and I go and crash my balls onto the tank. Otherwise the design of the tank is really good, and the seat is actually very comfortable in the sense it's good for long distance touring. You can easily do 100 to 200 kilometers in single stretcher now. But the catch is, it has a puny tank. Even though it's a beefy looking bigger tank and all, the tank size is 13 liters, and the usable fuel before it shows the reserve is just 10 liters, and I think the mileage on this motorcycle is somewhere from 18 to 22 km per liter. I was getting 24 when I was riding on highway, but if you're gonna belt it straight on the highway, like say 150 or 160 all the time, then you will have a mileage of around 15 km. That means once in 150 kilometers you have to stop this motorcycle to fuel. So that's one drawback. And also I consider this motorcycle to be a lighter motorcycle in the 600cc category, and the wheelbase is also short. That means you can actually filter through the traffic. Inside city you have a very good sounding exhaust, and you can actually have an enjoyable ride even if you are riding in a tighter city traffic. But I don't really say that you should buy this kind of a motorcycle for your city use, because you might end up getting tired, because whatever you say, like how much lighter the motorcycle is, a bigger cc motorcycle is always a bigger cc motorcycle. So we will get tired riding this motorcycle inside city, because we get that feel that we are always restricting ourselves and restricting the motorcycle to open up inside the city. But in moderate traffic, yes, you can use this motorcycle, and when you get an open highway like this, that's the sweet part of it. And another aspect when it comes to city riding is that ground clearance. Ground clearance is a major issue on this motorcycle. With my weight, I'm actually 65 kg. This motorcycle actually touches taller bumps inside my city, which is Bengaluru. If I'm riding with pillion, then definitely even the smaller humps will make a trouble for me. The one good part is, this is not actually hitting the oil sum. The underbelly exhaust is getting hit. So in that way, I could say that we are not losing money going about taller speed breakers. I hope you understand what I meant by that. Also, let me talk about the clutch feel and the gearbox when it comes to the city ride. The clutch is actually very light. It's a typical Honda, and the gearbox is also precise, so nothing to complain about. You can have a quick shifter installed on this motorcycle if you want. That's like an accessory. And on the newer version, we'll get an e-clutch. So how the e-clutch work is like, it's like an AMT in the cars. So it is like, if you have to shift the gears, you don't have to use the clutch at all. So imagine as if you are having a quick shifter and an auto blipper. But the catch is, even when you are shifting into the first gear from the neutral, when you are standing still, you don't have to use clutch. Just shift it. It is engaging the clutch inside, actually the other way, but you don't have to touch the clutch lever at all. So it's like fully manual control, but you can still have this automated feel as well. Like, you don't have to go for the DCT gearbox, which actually shifts for you, but most of the guys doesn't want that kind of a shifting pattern. The e-clutch system has a lot of advantage over that. Now let's get into the ownership part of this motorcycle. So yes, this motorcycle was actually coming for around 11 lakhs on road. Like, Honda India did it again. A good motorcycle with a costlier price tag. What the hell. Let it be there. I don't want to comment that again and again in all my Honda reviews. Let's come out of it. This motorcycle goes for general service once in 12,000 kilometers, costing around 5,000 to 6,000 rupees. But it is highly recommended to do a service once in 6,000 kilometers to check your oil level, to clean your air filter, to check your brake pads, and obviously you have to go and service your chain once in 750 kilometers, 1,000 kilometers. And the running maintenance is also much less on this Honda, because the chain and the sprocket has to be changed once in 25,000 kilometers on a normal riding condition. If you are riding hard, then probably it will come down to 20k. Otherwise 25k is a decent life for chain and all, and obviously nothing major to you look for apart from the tires and the brake. So if you're putting a good set of tires, then probably this kind of motorcycle will run for around 10 to 15k kilometers. If you're putting a hard compound tire, then you have a lot of life for the tire, but I'm not sure about yourself. But I'm just kidding. You have to put a softer compound or a medium compound tire on this one. Don't really go for harder compound just thinking that you'll get a better life for your tire. Your life is more important actually, not the tire life. So yeah, let's come to the conclusion. So let's take up the first question. Is it a beginner bike? So I'd say that this is a much beginner friendly motorcycle, in the sense, if you have a 2-cylinder 650cc like the Ninja 650 or the Z650, that actually has a lot of torque. That actually gets you going when you open the clutch. This one is not like that. As you see, it's actually a slow moving motorcycle in the lower revs, so it's kind of a beginner friendly motorcycle. I'm not saying that this is a motorcycle for someone who doesn't know how to ride. This is definitely a motorcycle for someone who know how to ride. I'm just telling that if you're stepping from a 200cc, then this is going to make you happy, and this will be comfortable as well. Yeah, now the second category, people who are coming from 300 to 400cc fast riders, I'll say that you go for the Z900, because this might be interesting for you in the initial days. But if you're gonna ride this motorcycle as you are riding the 390 or some other 400cc motorcycle, just like you're doing that, you might be probably running with a later class motorcycle. I don't say that this is going to shy away from the later class motorcycle, because when I was going for a trip, I was actually riding this motorcycle along with 2 Busa, 1 Multistrada and 1 1250 GS. But still I managed to cope up with them, cruising at a speed of 160 to 200. It's like a piece of cake on this motorcycle. Nothing stops you from doing that, even though it's illegal. But I would say, if somebody is actually planning to push further beyond 200 and they want that kind of an adrenaline feel, then this is not for you. I mean, no amount of modification on this motorcycle, engine tuning, boring, will get you to that point. So it's better to go for the Z900, which actually is a very good value for money machine. Only thing is, like, the amount of Z900 that you see on the road is enormous now, so you don't get that kind of an exclusive feel riding that motorcycle. But this one you get that. That's the only point. But what's the point if you are not enjoying the motorcycle? So you go and buy the Z900. And finally, if you are someone who wanted to have a secondary motorcycle, you already have a later class super sport or an adventure motorcycle, and you wanted a faster, a sweet sounding motorcycle for your city use or your weekend rides, then this is a very good motorcycle for you. But just one thing is that you might have to put an exhaust in this one, because it's much quieter. Now you don't really hear anything from the exhaust, because the exhaust is actually very silent. Be it the CB650 or the Z900, the exhaust is much silent. You have to go for an aftermarket exhaust to let others know that a fast bike is coming. It's not that we are actually irritating people, but we have to make that road presence. That's called road presence. People actually should know that a fast bike is coming. So if you ask me if I found any negatives with the motorcycle, not majorly, but yeah, yes, of course, pricing is a negative on this motorcycle as always. The second thing is actually the front mud flap is a bit short, and you have to go for an extender if you are buying this motorcycle. Otherwise, all the dust and dirt, if you are riding in the rain, will come through this area, and literally it can actually push to the helmet. So that's one annoying thing which I've seen. And yeah, of course, with the stock exhaust setup, the ground clearance is less. So these two things can be actually, you can put an extender over there which actually cuts off dust coming to this portion, and if you're changing the exhaust, your ground clearance issues also will change. So that's all with this review. I hope this video is actually helpful for you. I know that most of you guys are actually wanting to have this review at least a year back, but I didn't got a chance to take this motorcycle back then. I'm really sorry for that. Now it's the time. So probably if you're someone who is actually looking for this motorcycle in the second-hand market, or if you're looking for a flash sale, then definitely it's a very good motorcycle. If you're getting it for discount, definitely go for it, no doubt. So I hope this video is helpful for you, and as always, show some love in the form of likes and comments. See you in the next video. Until then, bye bye.